What do you expect from this team? We've heard people talk about, hey, it's a championship roster. This fallout's going to have a big effect on it. Where do you think this Green Bay Packers team goes now that Aaron's back, Randall Cobb fits into the mix, and Ryan Gutekunst is flat out, being honest, say, hey, we signed Randall because it was for Aaron. That's what we're doing now.
To me, the only thing that matters is Aaron Rodgers being back.
Yeah.
I personally don't necessarily believe Randall Cobb will make some incredible impact. I love Randall Cobb. I think he's a good player and provides familiarity with Aaron in this situation. But to me, that's not like, hey, this is the difference between going to the Super Bowl and not.
Right.
To me, simply getting Aaron back, I subscribe to the belief that players are pretty resilient, even when there's a quarterback who doesn't go through this type of drama, even if that quarterback doesn't get along with the whole locker room. And I'm not suggesting that's the way it is with Aaron at all. I'm just saying, in other places, this has happened where there is drama. I always think back, whenever there's drama and we wonder about chemistry of a locker room, I always think back to the night before the Seahawks won the Super Bowl when Percy Harvin, and now I don't want to mess this up, but was it Golden Tate got into a fist fight
right,
literally the night before the Super Bowl? If they can do that and win the game and win the Super Bowl, I kind of subscribe to the belief that maybe a Hall of Fame quarterback can come back into his locker room and perhaps bridge any awkwardness that might exist.
Yeah, I would suspect it would have to be like West Side Story. It would have to be like the Jets and the Sharks right. in the locker room, completely split down the middle.
Right.
Right. And what one thing that possibly could be a divisive factor this year in the NFL is whether or not your teammates are being vaccinated. We've seen a coach in Ron Rivera speak out about it, and in his defense, right, he's a guy who's living in the real world of having just overcome cancer and is immune deficient, and he's sensitive to that and is disappointed. But we've heard coaches talk about it, where they're at, where they're going, what kind of competitive advantage and disadvantage it could be. Is a right. vaccinated player, whether they are or not, could this be a divisive factor in a locker room down the stretch, specifically if you start taking away game checks from these players?
I'd imagine that guys will have those conversations early enough to where they can hopefully get through it and get on the same page. And as far as how this impacts the season, probably to a degree that it did last year, but maybe, where, for instance, the teams that were most prepared and most vigilant about dealing with the spread of COVID were ultimately the most successful. And that turned out, by and large, I think to be pretty true. The Bucs are a pretty good example of that. So too are the Chiefs. But I think in general, I subscribe to the belief that this won't be that big of a thing for the NFL eventually. We're still talking about a vaccination rate of above 80% across the league.
That's great.
So it's, as much as I understand the attention that we're placing on it, things are pretty good in the NFL, actually better statistically than the rest of society. And they have a lot more rules in place for those who are unvaccinated to where perhaps it will address some of the potential spread. So personally, I don't think it's going to have as much of an impact as it did last year. And last year they were able to get through a 17-week season.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.